I didn't read or say the whole story when I told the Noah story, because the story itself is so long. If you want to read it, you can. It's from Genesis 6 going all the way up through Genesis 9. And if you think about that, that's like half of everything from the very beginning up to now is just that one story. And the story itself repeats things, you know, and it's like everything is repeated in all these different multiples of 7. Like this has happened 7 times, and that happened 7 times, and everything is very mathematical, as the Hebrew poetic style often is. And all these little details. You know, you ask yourself, why does God say 3 decks? Well, you know, some people say it's the Trinity. All the details kind of center on these theological concepts. You look at the dimensions of the ark, you know, and this has been debated and talked about for forever. There's a general consensus that Noah is somehow typical of Christ, because Noah is seen as the protector, the provider, and yet he's human, and we're all descended from Noah. There's just all these parallels of Noah representing the work of Christ. And this whole story is just painted through and through with that theological the theological plan that God is laying out for people to be saved. And if you have any doubt about that, you can actually look in 1 Peter 3:20, where it says, corresponding to this story is our baptism. And Peter goes into a little bit about what that means. But you know, I wonder in the story, you know, if you draw all these contrasts, you know, people have looked at the beginning of the story. God says, make an ark of gopher wood and make it have rooms. And so a lot of people have drawn parallels between that and John 16:2, which Jesus says, in my Father's house there are many rooms. And if that's the case, I really hope not, because when we get to heaven, we find out, okay, you know, here's your room. You're going to be sharing it with an ostrich, you know, or some kind of animal. I'm like, oh no, are you kidding me? But the premise here is that the ark was not a very fun place to be, and that's what I want to talk about. Imagine this whole scenario laid out. You are Noah, and God has given you these dramatic instructions, right? And so for a while, you know, you're building this thing. You can tell your neighbors, yeah, you know, I got some dough and I'm just building myself a really big house. You know, then you start, you know, God goes on and says, you know, you cover it with pitch inside and out. Now that is no ordinary house. You're covering this thing over with pitch and tar, and people are like, what is going on here? And you know, I was looking through the Bible, and we know for one thing that it took a long time, because when you look in the book of Hebrews and also Peter, it's just saying God was so patient while all this was happening. And I was looking through the Bible for an example of when Noah preached, because I remember hearing somewhere that Noah preached for this time when he was building the ark. So I couldn't find it anywhere. Now please, 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 if you find this, post it on the site or something as a comment, because I couldn't find it. And I remember hearing it somewhere, and I think what I was thinking of is in the story in Hebrews 11, where it's talking about Noah. It says, let's see, where is it? It says, by faith, of course, Noah, who was warned he was warned by God about things that had not been seen yet, and in reverence he built an ark for the salvation of the people in his house, and by doing this, he condemned the world. And he became an heir to righteousness, which is by faith. And that's really interesting because it was faith. I mean, without faith, Noah wouldn't have done any of this. But you know, I think that we have a real confirmation here about what James says, where James says in James, I believe it's 3:18, where he says faith without works is dead. And yet it was a lot of work. You know, this thing must have taken forever. And obviously nobody was helping, except, you know, Noah and his 3 sons, because if someone else had helped, I think they would have been invited along for the ride. So here they are building this thing by themselves. And to make matters worse, I wonder if Noah ever thought about Enoch. Because as you remember, Enoch was Noah's grandfather. Enoch had a son named Methuselah. Methuselah had a son named Lamech. Lamech had a son named... So it may have been his great-grandfather, but at either rate, Enoch was kind of a legend, I'm sure, at that time, because it wasn't that long ago. And Enoch was simply just swooped up, just taken up by the Lord, and just like that, poof, you know. And Noah's like, oh God, you know, why can't my life be like Enoch? You know, he just, 1 second he's there, poof, he's up, he's like in paradise, he's just, you know, I'll fly away, oh glory. And here I am, slaving away at this freaking ark, you know, that is just ridiculous. And I gotta bring all these animals. And then after that, I mean, can you imagine what kind of hell this must have been? Not heaven, where you're in the ark for like 10 months, poop and scoop. Scoop and poop, I mean, and you're just taking this one day at a time, right? And if you didn't notice this detail, but Noah, he waits 40 days before he even opens the window. So you can just imagine what that's like. And you know, I'm sure that these animals were not just like angelic animals just being all sweet and everything like the pictures. I mean, I'm thinking they're screaming and whooping up a storm, just all upset because Noah won't open the stupid window for 40 days, you know. And so, at any rate, I think all of this just tells us a little bit about God. That God is not fair. God is, sometimes he will just swoop up someone like that, and other times he tells them to build an ark. You gotta, not only do you gotta spend your whole life building this stupid thing, but then you gotta sit on there for 10 months while everything is just like, you know, giving you a headache. You can't even open the window, 40 days. But God is not looked upon as a wicked, cruel, slave-driving God by Noah, because Noah is thankful for his salvation. Noah realizes what it is that God has done. And I wonder how much we realize how much God has done for us, even though God puts us through all this process. And so, anyway, you can think about those things. If you get to heaven, you find out you're sharing your bedroom with an ostrich. You know, we enter heaven thankful. Because when God talked to Noah, he said, I, even I. In other words, I know, Noah, that you would never think of me as a wicked God. But in fact, even I, the God you know, is going to yet destroy what you see around you. So just as God is just, God is also kind to people who are walking with him, like Noah. I hope that's you. Alright, thanks.